Paperboy Gotta Go production.
On subjects that some viewers may find uncomfortable. Some of the topics spoken about in this podcast may not be suitable for children. Viewer discretion is advised.
All right, welcome to the Wheeze.
Welcome to the Wheeze.
Welcome to the Wheeze.
Okay, so we're going to do the Waco siege, okay? Also known as the Waco Massacre. It was the law enforcement that belonged to the religious sect branch Davidians. How do you say that, Clint? Davidians. Thank you.
It's the branch Davidians.
Thank you. It was carried out by the U.S. federal government, Texas state law enforcement, and the U.S. military between February 28th and April 19th, 1993. The branch Davidians were led by David Koresh and were headquartered out at Mount Carmel Center Ranch in the community of Axtell, Texas. Jesus. 13 miles north of Waco. Suspecting the group of stockpiling illegal weapons, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the ATF, obtained a search warrant for the compound and arrest warrants for Koresh as well as a select few of the group members.
And marked the whole branch Davidians gathering and saving of weapons was I don't know how many years prior it was. I want to say it may have been in the 80s. It may have been in the early 90s, a little bit before the siege on Waco, but there was a thing called Ruby Ridge that had also happened where the ATF got involved and some people got killed and stuff.
Yeah,
because they were suspected of harboring dangerous weapons as well.
Right.
Damn.
So the incident began when the ATF attempted to serve a search and arrest warrant on the ranch. An intense gunfight erupted, resulting in the deaths of 4 government agents and 6 branch Davidians upon the ATF's entering of the property and failure to execute the search warrant. A siege lasting 51 days was initiated by the FBI. Eventually, the FBI launched an assault and initiated a tear gas attack in an attempt to force the branch Davidians out of the ranch. Shortly thereafter, the Mount Carmel Center became engulfed in flames. The fire resulted in the death of 76 branch Davidians, including 25 children, 2 pregnant women, and David Koresh. The events of the siege and attack are disputed by various sources. A particular controversy ensued over the origin of fire. An internal Justice Department investigation concluded in 2000 that incendiary tear gas canisters were used by the FBI, but maintained that sect members had started the fire. This came after a panel of arson investigators concluded the Davidians were responsible for igniting it simultaneously in at least 3 different areas of the compound. The events near Waco, along with the law enforcement siege at Ruby Ridge less than 12 months earlier, have been cited.
Okay, so it was in the same years. I didn't know if it was in the same years or if it had happened like years earlier or what was going on. I just knew that
Waco happened in 93, and so then Ruby Ridge happened in 92.
Yeah, because I knew that that's what sparked like the branch Davidians started hoarding weapons and stuff because they were afraid. Pretty much it came down to that David Koresh is running a cult, pretty much is what he's doing, and telling these people that he's Jesus. And there was a whole lot of bad on both sides. The ATF and the FBI didn't handle the situation particularly well. But of course, David Koresh was also leading this cult and like having sex with underage children and stuff too. So, and he had multiple wives and he was like stealing dudes' wives. It was a big mess on. So pretty much the branch Davidians were kind of like were kind of like a type of doomsday cult, not fully, but that's why they started hoarding all these weapons, though, because they were like, the government's not going to take our stuff.
Amen. No, I'm kidding.
Are you though? Are you?
Am I? We're not gonna get it. No, I'm kidding. Could we? No. Okay.
I was about to say we don't want to be blacklisted, okay, guys?
Okay, we're not gonna go. We're not gonna delve into that. Anyways,
I mean, we're already gonna be blacklisted.
The Branch Davidians,
cult.
right? Eileen, baby.
Coming back on 4th of July with the aliens.
Right.
Let's do this.
Right. The Branch Davidians, also known as the Branch, are a religious group that originated in 1955 from a schism in the Shepherd's Rod Davidians following the death of Shepherd's Rod founder Victor Houtef. How would you say that? Sure. Houtef.
However you want to say it, BB.
I'm gonna switch it up every time. Founded.
I want to say it's Hotef maybe, but I'm not sure.
Right. I feel like it's Hotef, but Hotef founded the Davidians based on his prophecy of an imminent apocalypse involving the second coming of Jesus Christ and the defeat of the evil armies of Babylon. As the original Davidian group gained members, its leadership moved the church to a hilltop several miles east of Waco, Texas, which they named Mount Carmel.
Carmel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mount
Caramel.
Well, there's no second A, so. Anyways, after a mountain, they named it after a mountain in Israel, mentioned. Jesus fucking Christ. Mentioned in Joshua 19:26 in the Bible.
I thought you were trying to pronounce a name out of the Bible when you said mentioned. I was like, I've never heard that name before.
Oh my God. Okay. A few years later, they moved again to a march. I can't fucking type.
Yeah. Are you sure you were ready when you said you were ready?
Apparently not. Okay. After a few years later, they moved again to a much larger site east of the city. In 1959, Victor's widow, Florence Houtef, announced that they expected Armageddon was about to take place. Oh shit. And members were told to gather at the center to await this event. Many of them built houses, others stayed in tents, trucks, or buses, and most of them sold their possessions. Following the failure of this prophecy, control of the site, Mount Carmel, fell to Benjamin Roden, founder of the Branch Davidian Seventh-day Adventist Association. Jesus.
Yeah.
The Branch Davidians, okay.
Another thing to note about the Branch Davidians is this isn't like your normal, your normal Christian group. This is like hardcore
Christian.
It's almost as bad as the People's Temple with Jim Jones. Like, you live for the church, you die for the church, you are with the church 100, period. It don't matter what's going on. You don't matter what's going on. Yes. You live by the church, you die by the church. And you don't question what happens. You just follow, period. Right. Never question what happens.
I need people like that.
Same. I need people like that in my life for me. I don't want to be one of the followers, but I
am the church.
Yeah, right. I'm the church. I need my groupies.
Hello? Oh, it got quiet there for a minute. I was like, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Could you hear us?
I couldn't. I heard Laura say, I am there, and then it cut out.
Oh, she was saying that she is the church.
Oh, okay.
I am the church.
Yeah. I got you. Yeah, that's what this situation is. And so, but I mean, David Koresh by no means was a good person, but
Right.
they also had kind of like a cool because like they were going out to like bars and stuff on doing like side things and like playing a band, and they did like cover songs and stuff. And
Not
they actually were
Clark
like
saying
pretty.
that the cult was cool because they did cover songs on the weekends.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that they actually did like normal stuff. You
So
know
that's
what I
how we get
mean?
into our cult. Is that we just fucking have band weekends? We're fun,
Right.
okay?
They're cool because they do some normal stuff, right? It's a cult.
Well, I mean,
but
like most people when they
we
hear
do
cults, they think of,
bowling.
like
Right.
you know they think like everybody's bullheaded and they all sit in a room and just chant about stuff, which I mean, I'm sure that shit happened, but they were also doing like normal people would do. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm meaning. I'm not saying that being in a cult is cool by any means. No, no. Sorry, if
Right.
somebody's gonna come at you with some whacked out stuff, then you might need to question it. Okay.
Right. But at least they were, kind of cult that did stuff on the weekends, right?
Yeah, I mean,
We get into the
you
fence,
know,
okay?
I was about to say if you can look past all the psychobabble and I'm gonna take your wife and she's gonna now be my wife and I'm gonna have kids with everybody and I'm gonna marry your daughter situation, then they were okay.
Right. If you just look past all that. Just that small thing.
It's fine.
Right.
Yeah, just that little part right there.
Anyways, following the failure of this prophecy, control of the site, Mount Carmel, fell to Benjamin Roden, the founder of the Branch Davidians. He promoted different doctrinal beliefs than those of Victor Hougheff's original Davidian Seventh-day Adventist organization. On Roden's death, control of the Branch Davidians fell to his wife, Lois Roden. Lois considered their son, George Roden, unfit to assume the position of prophet. Instead, she groomed Vernon Wayne Howell, later known as David Koresh, to be her successor.
Yeah, how bad of a fuck up do you have to be for your mom to be like, you know what?
You're not the
I know
prophet.
I know that this is a cult. I know this is a cult and we're kind of making shit up as we go, but you're not good enough to run this, okay?
Right, that'd be so sad.
You do not meet standards that we need. And so I'm going to give it
to get pushed out of the cult then, or is he still in the cult?
I'm sure he's still in the cult, but it's just like, he's still there. They're just like, you're not running it, so shut up.
Wait, no. Wow. Okay, so she made David be like the prophet, right? And a meeting in a 1984 meeting led to a division of the group, with Howell leading one faction, calling themselves the Branch Davidians, and George Roden leading the competing faction. After this split, George Roden ran Howell and his followers off Mount Carmel at gunpoint.
Oh, damn. So right? Georgia boy wasn't playing around. He's like, you know what? I'm sick of your shit, Mom.
The fucking prophet, bitch. The fucking
Mom, you said I wasn't good enough for this? Well, you know what? Y'all ain't good enough to be here. Get the hell out, or I'm popping caps.
Right? And then Howell.
Georgia boy go.
Howell, aka David Koresh, and his group relocated to Palestine, Texas. Then after the death of Lois Roden and probate of her estate in January 1987, Howell attempted to gain control of Mount Carmel Center by force. George Roden had dug up the casket.
George. You gotta say it like that every time.
George dug up the casket of Anna Hughes from the Davidian cemetery and had challenged Howell to a resurrection contest to prove who was the rightful heir.
Lord. It was Anyway. They did some wacky stuff, man. They did some wacky stuff. I know you look, Billy, I know your grandma passed away, but we need to use her in this resurrection contest, okay? We're not defiling a corpse, but you're gonna have to see your dead grandma a lot, Okay, I'm just letting you
A lot. Anyways, so Joe over here challenged Howell, David Koresh here, to the resurrection contest to prove who was the rightful heir. And Howell, David Koresh here, instead went to the police and claimed that Roden was guilty of.
I'm fixing to pull what's called a pro gamer move.
Right. And he claimed that Roden was guilty of corpse abuse, but
Oh God.
I mean, technically, yeah.
But the county prosecutor,
because David Koresh was like, "Look, I know we ain't gonna be able to do no resurrection shit, so I'm about to call the cops on this dude.
Right?
I'm winning this way.
I'm gonna nip it in the bud right now."
Look, I'm gonna call the. The Lord told me and spoke through me and said, "This is what I must do."
Right. But the county prosecutors, refused to file charges without proof that Roden was.
Proof?
Yeah.
They not have proof.
Right.
Walk inside the house. There's gonna be a body on the floor. He's gonna be chanting over it like, "Arise, chicken, chicken, arise, arise, chicken, chicken, arise."
On November 3rd, 1987, Howell and 7 armed companions tried to get into the Mount Carmel Chapel, intending to photograph the body in the casket as incriminating evidence. Roden was informed of the interlopers and opened fire. The sheriff's department responded about 20 minutes into the gunfight. God damn, it took you 20 minutes to get your ass over here?
Well, I mean, they're climbing up a fucking mountain, so I'm sure it's gonna take a minute. It's not like this ain't down the street at the Circle K. This is this is goddamn Jesus Mountain over here.
It's Mount Carmel, okay? It's made of caramel. It's sticky.
It was a little sticky. During which Roden had been wounded. Sheriff Harwell got Howell on the phone and told him to stop shooting and surrender. Howell and his companions, dubbed the Rodenville 8 by the media, were tried for attempted murder on April 12, 1988. 7 were acquitted, and the jury hung on Howell's verdict. The county prosecutors did not press the case further. Even with the effort to bring the casket to court, the standing judge refused to use it as evidence for Bless you.
See, so this makes me feel like maybe, just maybe, they should have been on a list already for all this crazy shit they were doing before it got down to a fucking 51-day siege. I'm just saying, maybe you got the crazy people trying to bring people back from the dead, and then they start fighting with guns like we're in the Wild West. You might want to keep an eye on them.
Right. Judge Herman Fitz ruled that the courtroom is no place for a casket when defense attorney Gary Coker requested it to be
We're going to bring the whole casket in here.
Right?
Right now.
The picture, just the whole fucking thing.
Like, look, Billy, they warned you before. They said you're going to see your grandma a lot.
Right.
Can you imagine if they did that with Couch Girl? They just brought the whole fucking couch
the whole
in
fucking
with the
couch
girl on it.
Just rolled it. She's still in the couch and just rolled it up in there. As you can see.
As you can smell. As you can fucking
This
taste.
is the only evidence that we need.
Right. But anyways, during the questions about the casket, Roden admitted to attempting to resurrect and use on 3 occasions. God damn, 3, sir? The Rodenville 8 reports.
And use?
Huh?
Hello?
What?
Okay.
Oh, God.
I lost connection there for a minute. I was like, oh, God. We're good.
Okay.
So you said to attempt to resurrect and use?
No. It says during questions about the casket, Roden admitted to attempting to resurrect Ann Hughes, is her name, Ann Hughes.
Ann Hughes. Okay. I thought you said Ann Hughes. I was like, and Hughes, what was he using it for? Like a prop at a party?
No.
Sat into the drive passenger seat so he could do the fast lane. What's going on? We're in the carpool lane today, boys.
The Rodenville 8 were forced to carry the casket down the street to a van awaiting the body. While waiting for trial, Roden was put in jail under because of his use of foul language in some court pleadings. He threatened the Texas court with sexually transmitted diseases if the court ruled in Howell's favor. Alongside these charges, Roden was jailed for 6 months for legal motions he filed with explicit language. Roden faced 90 days. Oh my fucking god! 90 days in jail.
90 days.
Listen, I'm just trying to shorten this up, okay? 90 days in jail for living on the property after being ordered to neither live on the property nor call himself the leader of the religious group in a 1979 case. The next day, Perry Jones of several of Howell's other followers moved from their headquarters in Palestine, Texas to Mount Carmel. In mid-1989, Roden used an axe to kill a Davidian named Wayman Dale Adair, who visited him to discuss Adair's alleged vision of being God's chosen Messiah. He was found guilty under an insanity defense and was committed to a mental hospital. Shortly after Roden's
sure.
Right.
Okay, see, now this is all news to me. I knew about the Waco siege, but I didn't realize we had like religion on to this deal.
Right.
They're fighting over territory right now. And,
it's like
God.
the Hatfields and the McCoys, but you know.
Yeah. It's the Crips and Bloods, but with religion.
Right. He was found guilty under insanity defense and was committed to a mental hospital. Shortly after Roden's commitment, Howell raised money to pay off all the back taxes on Mount Carmel. Look at him doing his duty. Owed by Roden, and took legal control of the property. After these legal proceedings, it was noted in a 90-minute interview by the Davidians attorney Douglas Martin that the religious group had been back and forth to court since 1955. On August 5th, 1989, Howell released the New Light audio tape in which he said that God told him to procreate with the women in the group to establish a house of David of his special people. This involves separating married couples.
I was about to say, this is where he starts stealing dudes' wives.
Right. This involves separating married couples in the group who had to agree that only he could have sexual relations with the wives, while the men should observe celibacy. Howell also said that God had told him to start building an army for God to prepare for the end of days and a salvation for his followers. Howell filed a petition in the California State Superior Court in Pomona on May 15th, 1990, to legally change his name for publicity and business purposes to David Koresh. On August 28th, he was granted the petition. By 1992, most of the land belonging to the group had been sold except for a core 77 acres. Most of the buildings were being salvaged for construction materials to convert much of the main chapel and a tall water tank into apartments for the resident members of the group. Many members of the group had been involved with the Davidians for a few generations, and many had large families.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. So that's the pre-shit, and now we're about to get into the pre-shit, like the before the shootout.
So this is the whole point, though. Well, this is the whole point, though, is that David Koresh had these people believing that he was the reincarnation of Christ. Yes. And so these people were following him to the death. 100%, did not question anything. And the thing is that David Koresh, in my mind, isn't even doing this for religious purposes. To me, it just sounds like he just wanted to be in control of everything. Right. He wanted to be in control, and he wanted to run it. And so that's why he started stealing people's wives, and you can't do this, and you have to go by what I say because that's what God says to do. And so, I mean, this is just a snippet into the wacky shit that happens because, like, later on, he does, like, they talk about doing punishments and stuff, and, like, he would keep people in fucking freezers and shit, and, you know, and sometimes he wouldn't punish them that bad, And it was just like a flip-floppy situation of what he was going to do and what he wasn't going to do. Like, David Koresh was not a very stable individual by any means. I can say that for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So on February 27th, 1993, the Waco Tribune-Herald began publishing The Sinful Messiah, a series of articles by Mark England and Darlene McCormick, who reported allegations that Koresh had physically abused children in the compound and committed statutory rape by taking multiple underage brides. Koresh was also said to advocate himself married to several female residents of the small community. The paper claimed that Koresh had announced that he was entitled to at least 140 wives, and that he was entitled to claim any of the women in the group as his, that he had fathered at least a dozen children, and that some of these mothers became brides as young as 12 or 13 years old.
Yes.
Gross. In addition to allegations of sexual abuse and misconduct, Koresh and his followers were also suspected of stockpiling illegal weapons. In May 1992, Chief Deputy Daniel Weyenberg of McLennan County Sheriff's Department called the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the ATF, to notify them that his office has been contacted by a local UPS representative concerned about a report by a local driver. The UPS driver said a package had broken open on delivery to the...
And they found grenades.
Revealing firearms, inert grenade casings, and black powder. He said it broke open. No, sir, you were rifling through that package. You was nosy.
Hey, but I'm glad he did, because these fools literally they say inert grenades, because what they did was they bought grenades that had all the stuff taken out of them, and they were going to refurbish them into actual grenades. Like, these people were insane and very resourceful. They are literally insane.
They were insane. They were insane, but they were like smart kind of insane. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, no, they were resourceful. They're probably not like Ted Kaczynski level smart, but they're pretty smart.
They were smart.
Which I don't know.
Texas.
In case the viewers don't know who that is, Ted Kaczynski is the Unabomber, and he was a super intelligent individual.
We should do. I want to do him because I watched so many documentaries about him, and I was just that case. Tough case. But anyways,
Ted Kaczynski was crazy, and
he was.
I mean, I don't feel like.
Have you ever read his manifesto, though? Have you ever read his manifesto?
Yeah, it's manifesto. I mean, it makes sense at some points. At some points, it's crazy ramble.
Right.
But I mean, I also I don't agree with Ted Kaczynski did by any means. Like, he's not a good guy, but I also kind of felt sorry for him because the shit that he went through at such a young age caused him to go to where he was at. Because he was just he was literally a super level genius.
No, he was very smart. He was superior.
Yeah, he was in he was superior than Libs, because he was at Harvard at the age of 16.
No, for real though, like, goddamn.
Yeah, homie was a legit genius, but he was also crazy and possibly schizophrenic.
Same. No. But yeah, I feel like we should do the Unabomber. Jesus, at some point.
The unibrow, we can do it.
Yeah, the unibrow.
The unibrow.
I mean, I'm surprised he didn't have a unibrow, being all crazy mo man living in a 1-bedroom shack in the woods.
Right. He could. He could have.
I mean,
you don't know.
No, he didn't, but he definitely looked crazy. He definitely looked the part of someone who is totally insane.
Same. Anyways, on June 9th, the ATF opened a formal investigation, and a week later it was classified as sensitive, thereby calling for a high degree of oversight from both Houston and headquarters. The documentary Inside Waco claims that the investigation started when, in 1992, the ATF became concerned over reports of automatic gunfire coming from the Carmel camp compound. On July 30th, ATF agents David Aguilera and Skinner visited. And Skinner, his name is just Skinner.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all we get from him. Okay, visited the Branch Davidians gun
Because he's a badass.
Right, this Skinner. Gun dealer Henry McMohan, who tried
McMohan,
who tried to get them to talk with Koresh on the phone. Koresh offered to let ATF inspect the Branch Davidians' weapons, and Aguilera declined. Sheriff Harwell told reporters regarding law enforcement talking with Koresh, just go out and talk to them. What's wrong with notifying them? The ATF began surveillance from a house across the road from the compound several months before the siege. Their cover was noticeably poor. The college students were in their 30s, so they were being college students. The college students were in their 30s, had new cars, were not registered at the local schools, and they did not keep a schedule that would have had fit any legitimate employment or classes.
Well, if you're going to go undercover as a college student, you have to have like an old school Ford Pinto or something and be living off ramen 6 days out of the week.
Get me a fucking 2002 Honda and ramen.
That
but
2000,
back then,
I was about to say 2002 would have happened then.
Right, but now I'm just saying.
Yeah, but I don't think we would have a crazy compound now.
We might. You don't know. Me and Laura, Eileen.
right?
You don't know that shit. And now we got to be watching out.
Give us some time,
cars.
okay?
I'm not a part of this conversation, FBI. Don't sweep me up.
Anyways, the investigation included sending an undercover agent, Robert Rodriguez, whose identity Koresh learned through it, though he chose not to reveal that fact until the day of the raid. The ATF obtained a search warrant on suspicion that the Davidians were modifying guns to have a legal automatic fire capability. Former Branch Davidian Mark Brualt claimed that Koresh had M16 lower receiver parts. Combining M16 trigger components with a modified AR-15 lower receiver is, according to ATF regulations, constructive possession of an unregistered machine gun, regulated in the Firearm Owners Protection Act of 1986.
Yes, you cannot self-modify your guns into an automatic weapon. It is a federal crime.
Yes.
Which is why they invented the bump stock, and then the bump stock became illegal to own a bump stock because that's what that dude in Vegas used. And pretty much a bump stock would turn a single fire weapon into an automatic weapon. The semi-auto, if you had a bump stock, it was just like having automatic. It was crazy. Yes. Because essentially all it is, essentially all it is the bump stock. It does with the vibration of the gun and the recoil. And so it just constantly bounces back and forth. And all you have to do is just hold your finger to the trigger and it'll sit there and just constantly hit your finger and bump it. So, I mean, it's just like an automatic weapon. 100%.
Well, that's crazy. Anyways, the ATF used an affidavit filed by David Aguilera to obtain
an alpha David.
Obtained the warrant that led to the Waco siege. The official filing date of this affidavit was February 25th, 1993. Investigation began in June 1992 when a postal worker informed the sheriff, like,
that's not what the postal worker said. He didn't walk up to the sheriff and say blah 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 blah.
Anyways, we just read this part. They're just saying it again.
I know.
That he believed he had been delivering explosives to the ammo guns were owned by and operated by the Branch Davidians. The store named the Mag Bag had been identified by the said postal worker as suspicious in deliveries. The postal worker continued deliveries to the Mount Carmel Center and reported seeing occupied observation posts. In the affidavit, it states he believed there were armed personnel at these observation posts.
Oh yeah, they had like guard towers and shit.
Creepy.
Like when they say this was a compound, like I'm sure y'all probably like looked up documentaries but if you have you ever like looked up like aerial views of like what the Waco compound looked like? It was literally like a fortress castle thing.
Yeah.
It was a compound.
I feel like in the comment or you should like link some pictures of Waco on like Facebook and link it in your YouTube. So like
I can do that. I can put
and
links
that
in the
way
description.
people who are listening here go check out the YouTube to get the link.
Right at the Wees.
I'll put the links in the description. And if I forget to do it, then I'll eventually do it because sometimes I'll be fucking up. So
anyways, the McLennan County Sheriff was notified in May and 2 cases of inert grenades, black gunpowder, 90 pounds of powdered aluminum metal, and 30 to 40 cardboard tubes. Furthermore, the sheriff noticed another shipment of 60 AR-15/M16 magazines, to which Aguilera made the statement, "I have been involved in many cases where defendants, following a relatively simple process, convert AR-15 semi-automatic rifles to fully automatic rifles of the nature of the M16 to justify the AFT's involvement in the case." In November 1992, a local farmer reported to the sheriff that he had heard machine gun fire. Machine gun Kelly.
That's what I was going to say too. Stop.
Blah, blah, blah.
By the sound of it, he said it was likely a .50 caliber machine gun with multiple M16s. This farmer claimed he was very familiar with machine guns, having done a tour overseas in the U.S. Army. The affidavit closed with Aguilera verifying the story via interviews made with associated parties and gun shops from which the mag bag purchased items. Among these items were over 45 AR-15 upper receivers and 5 M16 upper receivers, which Aguilera noted these kits contain all the parts of an M16 except for the lower receiver unit, which is the firearm by lawful definition, admitting that neither of the noise complaints nor the items were ordered were necessarily illegal.
Nope. Because they ordered them in pieces.
Right.
So they didn't have, so necessarily when you order it in pieces, it's not a firearm until you put it together.
Right. And they didn't have any proof of them putting it together.
No.
Using the affidavit filed by Aguilera, that alleged that the Davidians had violated federal law, the ATF obtained search and arrest warrants for Koresh and the specific followers on weapons charges, citing the many firearms that they had accumulated. The search warrant commanded a search on or before February 28, 1993, in the daytime between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. In the daytime between 6 a.m. That's not daytime. 10 p.m. Bitch, I'm in bed by 9. The ATF.
Are you though?
Right.
No, I was about to say, don't lie. There was a snap sent to the group chat at like 11:30 last night or something.
Listen, last night doesn't count. The ATF made a claim that Koresh was possibly operating a methamphetamine lab to establish a drug nexus and obtain military assets under the war on. The ATF's investigation focused on firearm and violations, not on illegal drugs. The ATF requested assistance from the DEA and the DOD, citing a drug connection based on 1, a recent delivery to the compound of chemicals, instruments, and glassware. 2, a written testimony resident alleging Howell had told him that drug trafficking was a desirable way to raise money. 3, several current residents who had prior drug involvement. 4, 2 former residents who were incarcerated for drug trafficking crimes. And 5, National Guard overflights thermal images showing a hot spot inside of the compound, possibly indicating a methamphetamine laboratory. Although the original request for assistance was initially approved The commander of the Special Forces Detachment questioned the request, and the ATF obtained only a training site at Fort Hood, Texas, from February 25th to February 27th, with safety inspections for the training lanes, and was given only medical and communication training and equipment. Okay, bitch. The ATF planned their raid for Monday, March 1st, with the code name Showtime.
Showtime.
It's showtime, baby. The
Showtime.
ATF later claimed the raid was moved up a day to February 28th, 1993, in response to the Waco Tribune Herald's The Sinful Messiah series of articles, which the ATF had tried to prevent from being published. Beginning February 1st, ATF agents had 3 meetings with Tribune Herald staff regarding a delay in publication of The Sinful Messiah. The paper was first told by the ATF that the raid would take place February 22nd, which they changed to March 1st, and then ultimately to an indefinite date. ATF agents felt the newspaper had held off publication at the request of the ATF for at least 3 weeks. In a February 24th meeting between Tribune Herald staff and ATF agent Philip, we're not going to even try his last name.
All right, Philip is fine.
Philip and 2 other agents.
Sorry, Philip.
Right? He don't get to have recognition. The ATF could not give the newspaper staff a clear idea of what action was planned or when. The Tribune Herald informed ATF they were publishing the series which included an editorial calling for local authorities to act. Personnel of the Tribune Herald found out about the intimate raid after the first installment of The Sinful Messiah had already appeared on February 27th. Although
you said intimate raid?
Imminent.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was just like, wait, is that what they? I was like, is that what they said? Intimate raid?
No.
I mean, technically, a raid could be intimate because they are going inside of a place. So
right.
Come inside my place.
Ooh, raid these caves, baby.
Do it anytime, Daddy.
Although the ATF preferred to arrest Koresh when he was outside Mount Carmel.
Flee, just flee.
Planners received inaccurate information that Koresh rarely left it. The Branch Davidian members were all well known locally and had cordial relations with other locals. The Branch Davidians partly supported themselves by trading at gun shows and took care to have the relevant paperwork to ensure that their transactions were legal. Branch Davidian Paul Fata.
I think is it FAFTA or is it FATA?
It's FATTA.
Okay, I was thinking maybe FAFTA because there's something that's FAFTA, but I don't remember what it is.
No, it's Paul Fata, who was a federal firearms licensed dealer, and the group operated a retail gun business called the Mag Bag. When shipments for the Mag Bag arrived, they were signed for by Fata, Steve Schneider, or Koresh. The morning of the raid, Paul Fata and his son Kalani were on their way to an Austin gun show to conduct business.
Kalani Fata.
On February 28th.
Sounds like a pill somebody would take.
Right. On February 28th, the ATF attempted to execute their search warrant on Sunday morning, February 28th, 1993. The local sheriff, in audio tapes broadcasted after the incident, said he was not apprised of the raid. Despite being informed that the Branch Davidians knew a raid was coming, the ATF commander ordered that it go ahead. Even though their plan depended on reaching the compound without the Branch Davidians being armed and prepared, while not standard procedure, ATF and agents had their blood type written on their arms or neck after leaving the staging area and before the raid, because it was recommended by the military to facilitate speedy. Jesus fucking Christ! Why is there so many words with so many letters?
It's called the English language, honey.
Right? To facilitate speedy blood transfusions in the case of injury. Any advantage of surprise was lost when a KW Texas TV reporter who had been tipped off about the raid asked for directions from a U.S. Postal Service mail carrier who was coincidentally Koresh's brother-in-law. This is
Damn.
Koresh then
Hey,
told,
bro. Hey,
right?
mailman. You know how to get out to this place? Because we don't know where it's at. Can you give us the address? Just one time.
Koresh then told undercover ATF agent Robert Rodriguez that they knew a raid was imminent. Rodriguez had infiltrated the branch.
They knew a raid was intimate.
They knew it was intimate. And was astonished to find that his cover had been blown. The agent made an excuse and left the compound. When asked
How
later,
did this happen?
Paperboy gotta go.
Astonished.
Right.
They said astonished to find out that his cover was blown. How could this happen? I didn't ask
Right.
the random mailman for directions. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
When asked later, the Branch Davidians had been doing what the Branch Davidians had been doing when he left the compound, Rodriguez replied, they were praying. Branch Davidian survivors have written that Koresh ordered select male followers to begin arming and taking up defensive positions, while the women and children were told to take cover in their rooms. Koresh told them that he would try to speak to the agents, and what happened next would depend on the agents' intentions. The ATF arrived at 9:45 a.m. in a convoy of civilian vehicles containing uniformed personnel in SWAT-style tactical gear. ATF agents stated that they heard shots coming from within the compound, while Branch Davidian survivors claimed that the first shots came from the ATF agents outside. A suggested reason may have been an accidental discharge of a weapon, possibly by an ATF agent, causing the ATF to respond with fire from automatic weapons. Other reports claim the first shots were fired by the ATF dog team sent to kill the dogs and the Branch Davidian kennel. 3 helicopters of the Army National Guard were used as aerial distraction and took all incoming fire. During the first shots, Koresh was wounded, shot in the hand and stomach. Within a minute of the raid start, Branch Davidian Wayne Martin called emergency services pleading for them to stop shooting. Martin asked for a ceasefire, and audio tapes recorded him saying, "Here they come again," and that's them shooting us. The first ATF casualty was an agent who had made it to the west side of the building before he was wounded. Agents quickly took cover and fired at the buildings while the helicopters began their diversion and swept in low over the complex. 350 feet away from the building, the Branch Davidians fired on the helicopters and hit them, although none of the crew members were injured. In response, the helicopter pilots chose to pull away from the compound and land. On the east side of the compound, agents brought out 2 ladders and set them against the side of the building. They then climbed onto the roof to secure it to reach Koresh's room and the location where they believed weapons were stored. On the west slope of the roof, 3 agents reached Koresh's window and were crouching beside it when they came under fire. 1 agent was killed and another wounded. The 3rd agent clambered over the peak of the roof and joined other agents attempting to enter the armory. The window was smashed, a flashbang stun grenade was thrown in, and 3 agents entered the armory. When another tried to follow them, a hail of bullets penetrated the wall around and wounded him, but he was able to reach a ladder and slide to safety. An agent fired his shotgun at Branch Davidians until he was hit in the head by return fire and killed. Inside the armory, the agents killed a Branch Davidian and discovered a cache of weapons, but subsequently came under heavy fire. 2 were wounded. As they escaped, the 3rd agent laid down, covering fire, killing a Branch Davidian. As he made his escape, he hit his head on the wooden support beam and fell off the roof.
Yep.
But survived. An agent outside provided them with covering fire, but was shot by a Branch Davidian and was killed instantly. God damn. Dozens of ATF agents took cover, many behind Branch Davidian vehicles, and exchanged fire with the Branch Davidians. The number of ATF wounded increased, and an agent was killed by gunfire from the compound as agents were firing at a Branch Davidian perched on top of the water tower. The exchange of fire continued, but 45 minutes into the raid, Gunfire began to slow down as agents began to run low on ammunition. Oh my god.
Ammunition.
The
Between the way you say agents and ammunition, it kind of
agent.
every time you say agents, it sounds like you're saying Asians.
I thought she said Asians before too. Don't worry. I was about to say.
I was like, they're gonna
Did
think
you
we're
just
super racist
Asian?
because she's over here. She's saying agents, and it sounds like she's saying Asians, and I'm like,
It's
no,
agents.
there
How
were
am I saying it wrong?
just
Oh
the
my
way
god.
you say it sounds like you're saying Asians.
Oh my god. Anyways, it slowed down after 45 minutes because they ran low on ammunition. Oh my fucking god.
Ammunition.
The shooting continued for a total of 2 hours. 2 hours shooting back and forth at these bitches. Yeah. Sheriff Lieutenant Lynch of the McLennan County Sheriff Department contacted the ATF and negotiated a ceasefire. Sheriff Harwell states in William Gazekski's documentary Waco, The Rules of Engagement, that the ATF agents withdrew only after they were out of ammunition. Almost got me that time, bitch. ATF agent.
See, there, agent. See, you enunciated on the gent.
Chuck Hustmeyer later wrote about 45 minutes into the shootout, the volume of gunfire finally started to slacken. We were running out of ammunition. The Davidians, however, had plenty. So like the fucking Christian people
ATF,
were fucking
yeah.
shocked.
The ATF had plenty of ammunition, and I think the Branch Davidians, they were still firing back, but it started slacking because I think both sides pretty much started running low. Right. And you know, this is going straight into the raid. This didn't talk about like the stuff that happened before they did the raid, like how the ATF set up speakers and was playing like really shitty music for like days on end. No,
well,
they
did
another
like article, like things you didn't know about the raid that I was gonna go through after this.
Oh,
so maybe it's on there, but maybe. I didn't know that.
But that's either. One of the things they did, which is a torture technique that they've used to like get information from people.
Right,
and
really shouldn't like.
Yeah,
honestly, I would just start vibing at some point. Like I was. Just
well, see, the thing is what happened. Well, see, the thing is, what happened was when they started playing the really shitty music, they were doing it on days in, and finally. Koresh got up on the roof of the compound with his electric guitar, and they started playing music back to him. So, I mean, that's one way to handle it. Right. Koresh and all of his Asian, Koresh and all of his Asians that he has there.
His Asians. Anyways, after about 45 minutes into the shootout, the volume of gunfire finally started to slacken. We were running out of ammunition. The Davidians, however, had plenty. In all, four ATF agents, Steve Willis, Robert Williams, Todd McKeehan, and Conway Charles LeBleu, had been killed during the firefight. Another 16 had been injured. After the ceasefire, the Branch Davidians allowed the ATF dead and wounded to be evacuated and held their fire during the ATF retreat. The 5 Branch Davidians killed in the raid were Winston Blake, Peter Gent, Peter Himpsman, Perry Jones, and Jadine Wendell.
Not Perry.
Damn it. Yeah. God damn it, Perry. 2 were killed at the hands of Branch Davidians after having been wounded. Their bodies buried on grounds. Nearly 6 hours after the 11:30 a.m. ceasefire, Michael Schroeder was shot dead by ATF agents who alleged he fired a pistol at agents as he attempted to re-enter the compound with Woodrow Kendrick and Norman Allison.
Woodrow Kendrick. What a fucking name. Woodrow.
Alan A. Stone's report states that the Branch Davidians did not ambush the ATF and that they apparently did not maximize the kill of the ATF agents, explaining that they were rather desperate religious fanatics expecting an apocalyptic ending in which they were destined to die defending their sacred ground and destined to achieve salvation. A 1999 federal report noted the violent tendencies of dangerous cults can be classified in two general categories: defensive violence and offensive violence. Defensive violence is utilized by cults to defend a compound or enclave that was enclave. What is it? How do you say that?
Enclave? Is it ENCLAVE?
Yeah.
That's enclave.
Enclave, to defend a compound or enclave that was created specifically to eliminate most contact with the dominant culture. The 1993 clash in Waco, Texas, at the Branch Davidian complex is an illustration of such defensive violence. History has shown that groups that seek to withdraw from the dominant culture seldom act on their beliefs that the end time has come unless provoked.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're moving on to the FBI siege after all that. So anything you would like to add, Clunt, Laura?
Really, that was just with the ATF, and then when the FBI got involved, that's when they started getting the tanks and stuff, and that's mainly like what news media and stuff would show was the tanks. And another big thing about this is the first time that people have actually seen like a smaller entity take on the government in such a way to where, and so it sparked a lot of fear and a lot of controversy throughout the United States at this time. And a lot of people say that the Waco siege is actually what sparked the Oklahoma City bombings with Timothy McVeigh. That Timothy McVeigh, because Timothy McVeigh at this time, he may have still been in the military at this time. I'm not sure, because because the Oklahoma City bombings happened in, was it 96 or 98? I think it's like 96, maybe sometime in the 90s. Oklahoma City bombing happened, and that's what sparked Timothy McVeigh was the Waco siege, because pretty much people saw this as the government trying to control the public. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so this sparked a lot of controversy on the way that it was handled, especially when they started having to get tanks and stuff involved, and once they actually set the compound.
I really don't think that these crazy people really would have done anything if the FBI didn't come in and start fucking with it. Like if the ATF, whatever it's called,
and they probably
didn't come in the way they did. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, and that's what I said. They probably wouldn't. And I understand why the ATF and stuff got involved, because they're harboring a whole bunch of a shitload of automatic weapons. So it's kind of like, what are they planning? You know what I mean? And so they were, now the way that they went in
for the end of times, man. Let them.
But it's also a crazy cult. So are they actually planning for the end of times? Or are they fixing to try to go kill a whole bunch of
people?
Why you have to go and kill everybody? Why couldn't you you just go? Couldn't you just handle it better so we could know?
Oh yeah, and this is why they have new regulations and stuff on the way shit's handled now, because of situations like this, But I see.
It up.
Yeah, and I see the ATF's thinking on the situation. Not saying that they handled it right, but
I can get it, right? Like why?
Yeah, they were trying to do like a preventative measure,
right,
to make sure that this didn't get out of hand, but they did it in a wrong way.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And so I understand both sides, because the Branch Davidians are thinking, okay, these people are just coming and they're trying to take us over and they're gonna enslave us to the government and all this stuff, so we got to protect our stuff. And the ATF are like, these are a bunch of crazy people and they may go kill a whole bunch of people, so we got to stop them.
Right.
And so you have two opposing sides, neither of which are going about the situation in the right way.
Right.
Yeah. And I think eventually it found out that the first shot that went off was actually from the dog team, because
it said that it was like.
Yeah. And I think the reason why the first shot went off was because one of the dogs was trying to attack one of the people, because they're guard dogs, so that's what they're gonna do.
Right.
And one of the guys shot the dog because it was either attacking someone or fixing to attack someone, one of the two.
Same. Yeah, so let's get into the FBI siege, because we got the final assault and burning, and then we got the aftermath. So Okay. Anyways, the FBI siege. The ATF agents established contact with Koresh and others inside the compound after they withdrew. The FBI took commands soon after as a result of the deaths of federal agents, placing Jeff Jamar, head of the Bureau's San Antonio field office, in charge of the siege as site commander. The FBI
There you go, JJ.
Right. The FBI hostage rescue team, the HRT, was headed by HRT Commander Richard Rogers. Good RR. We got RR and JJ out here.
Yeah. Double R, double J. Let's do this.
Who had previously been criticized for his actions during the Ruby Ridge incident.
Yeah.
And also, back out
also, the reason why they got this guy is because he's really good, because he's done other stuff besides the Ruby Ridge. Mm-hmm. And a really good thing to watch, if for our viewers, if y'all haven't watched it, which I would be surprised, is the miniseries called Waco. And it's basically from the point of view of the guy that they're talking about now. And it's pretty informative, and it goes over a lot of stuff, and most of the stuff in it isn't super embellished. So
okay. The Waco miniseries. It's called Waco. What is it on? We don't know. Google it, bitch.
I think it may have been on HBO. I'm not sure.
Probably HBO. It feels like an HBO thing. He was criticized for his actions during the Ruby Ridge incident, as at Ruby Ridge, Rogers often overrode the site commander at Waco and had mobilized both the blue and gold HRT tactical teams to the same site, which ultimately created pressure to resolve the situation tactically due to the lack of HRT reserves. At first, the Davidians had telephone contact with local news media, and Koresh gave phone interviews. The FBI cut Davidian communication to the outside world. For the next 51 days, communication with those inside was telephoned by a group of 25 FBI negotiators. The final Justice Department report found that negotiators criticized the tactical commanders for undercutting negotiations. In the first few days, the FBI believed they had made a breakthrough when they negotiated with Koresh an agreement that the Branch Davidians would peacefully leave the compound in return for a message recorded by Koresh being broadcasted on national radio. The broadcast was made, but Koresh then told negotiators that God had told him to remain in the building and wait. Despite this, soon afterwards, negotiators managed to facilitate the release of 19 children, ranging in ages from 5 months to 12 years old, without their parents. However, 98 people remained in the building. The children were then interviewed by the FBI and Texas Rangers for some hours at a time. Allegedly, the children had been physically and sexually abused long before the standoff. This was the key justification offered by the FBI, both to then President Bill Clinton and Attorney General Janet Reno, for launching tear gas.
Have sexual relations with that woman.
For launching tear gas attacks to force the Branch Davidians out of the compound. During the siege, the FBI sent a video camera to the Branch Davidians. In the videotape made by Koresh's followers, Koresh introduced his children and his wives to the FBI negotiators, including several minors who claimed to have had babies fathered by Koresh. Koresh had fathered perhaps 14 of the children who stayed with him in the compound. Several Branch Davidians made statements in the video. On day 9, Monday, March 8th, the Branch Davidians sent out the videotape to show that the FBI that there were no hostages, but everyone was staying inside on their own free will.
And that's another thing, is that these people weren't staying inside of their own free will. These people were brainwashed.
Right.
And so they were like, we're not going to. And another part that people don't realize is that some of the people weren't brainwashed, but it was a threat of losing everything you have, because all you've known
is all you know your whole life.
Right.
Yeah, this community. So if you leave this, then you don't have anything.
What do you have? Where do you go? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And these fucking cops aren't being like,
come with us and we'll give you housing. No, it's like you're gonna be
It's
on your
one
own.
of
It's
us.
scary.
One of us.
This video also included a message from Koresh. The negotiators' log showed that when the tape was reviewed, there was concern that the tapes released to the media would gain sympathy for Koresh and the Branch Davidians. Videos also showed the 23 children still inside the compound and the child care professionals on the outside prepared to take care of those children as well as the previous 19 released. As the siege continued, Koresh negotiated for more time, allegedly, so he could write religious documents he needed to complete before his surrendering. His conversations, which were dense with biblical imagery, alienated the federal negotiators who treated the situation as a hostage crisis. Among themselves, the negotiation teams took to calling Koresh's words "bibble babble." As the siege wore on, two factions developed within the FBI. One believing negotiation to be the answer, the other force. Increasingly aggressive techniques were used to try to force the Branch Davidians out. For instance, sleep deprivation of the inhabitants through all-night broadcasts of recordings of jet planes, pop music, Buddhist chanting, and the screams of rabbits being slaughtered outside the compound.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. This is what I was talking about when they were playing like the loud music and stuff.
Yeah, to deprive them of sleep. Damn. Outside the compound, 9 Bradley fighting vehicles carrying M651 CS tear gas grenades and ferret rounds and 5 M728 combat engineer vehicles obtained from the U.S. Army began patrolling. That's a little extra, sir. The armored vehicles were used to destroy perimeter fencing and outbuildings and crush cars belonging to the Branch Davidians. Why you got to take their cars, man? Cars are expensive.
So they can't run.
But cars.
They said you're not running today.
Armored vehicles repeatedly drove over the grave of Branch Davidian Peter Gent, despite protests by the Branch Davidians and the negotiators. How you gonna disrespect?
Said, man, fuck your grave.
Right.
Two of the 3 water storage tanks on the roof of the main building had been damaged during the initial ATF raid. Eventually, the FBI cut all power and water to the compound, forcing those inside to survive on rainwater and stockpiled military MRE rations. Criticism was later leveled by Schneider's attorney, Jack Zimmerman, that at the tactic of using sleep and peace disrupting sound against the Branch Davidians. The point was this: they were trying to have sleep disturbance, and they were trying to take someone that they viewed as unstable to start with, and they were trying to drive him crazy. And then they got mad because he does something that they think is irrational.
It's not that; it's just that he's so crazy he can't be driven crazy any further. So, yeah, he's gonna do something that doesn't make sense to them.
Right. Despite the increasingly aggressive tactics, Koresh ordered a group of followers to leave. 11 people left and were arrested as material witnesses, with one person charged with conspiracy to murder. The children's willingness to stay with Koresh disturbed the negotiators, who were unprepared to work around the Branch Davidians' religious zeal. However, as the siege went on, the children were aware that an earlier group of children who had left with some women were immediately separated and the women arrested. During the siege, several scholars who studied apocalypticism in religious groups attempted to persuade the FBI that the siege tactics being used by the government agents would only reinforce the impression with the Branch Davidians that they were part of a biblical end of times confrontation at cosmic significance. This would likely increase the chances of violent and deadly outcome. The religious scholars,
which is very true, because what they're failing to realize is these people are prepared for the end times. So like all this stuff that's going on to them seems like, they may think of it as suffering, but they're suffering for their faith.
right?
So they're just gonna accept it as what it is and just take it head on.
these people got better willpower than we do.
Right.
Yes.
This would likely increase the chances of violent and deadly outcome. The religious scholars pointed out that the beliefs of the group may have appeared to be extreme, but to the Branch Davidians, their religious beliefs were deeply meaningful, and they were willing to die for them. Koresh's discussions with the negotiating team became increasingly difficult. He proclaimed that he was the second coming of Christ and had been commanded by his Father in heaven to remain at the compound. 1 week before the April 19th assault, FBI planners considered using snipers to kill David Koresh and possibly other key Branch Davidians. The FBI voiced concern that the Branch Davidians might commit mass suicide, as had happened in 1978 at the Jim Jonestown complex. Koresh had repeatedly denied any plans.
That's another. I don't know if we mentioned this before or not, but another reason why this was such a big thing too was this is the first time this actually happened on American soil.
Right.
The Jim Jones thing, they weren't on American soil. They were in Guyana, over, and I don't even know where Guyana's at. Is it in South America? Maybe.
I think so. I feel like it was it was in Africa, was it not?
Was it in Africa? I don't remember where it was at.
I feel like it was in Africa, and he was like saying like really racist stuff. Jim Jones was.
It may have been in Africa. I don't remember exactly where it's at. I just know that Jonestown was a super massacre, because it was like 900 and something people, I think.
Right.
And but it happened overseas. Now they were Americans, yes, but it wasn't on American soil. This is the first time anything like this has taken place on American soil, besides Ruby Ridge, which was small scale compared to this.
Right. Koresh repeatedly denied any plans for mass suicide when confronted by the negotiators during standoff, and people leaving the compound had not seen any such preparation. So newly appointed U.S. General Janet Reno approved recommendations by the FBI hostage rescue team to mount an assault after being told that the conditions were deteriorating and the children were being abused inside the compound. Reno made the FBI's case to President Clinton, recalling the April 19th, 1985, the Covenant, the Sword, and the Arm of the Lord siege in Arkansas, which ended without loss of life by a blockade without a deadline. President Clinton suggested similar tactics against the Branch Davidians. Reno countered that the FBI hostage rescue team, the standoff was costing $1 million per week, that the Branch Davidians could hold out longer than the CSAL, and that the chances of child sexual abuse and mass suicide were imminent. Clinton later recounted, "Finally, I told her that if she thought it was the right thing to do, she could go ahead." Over the next several months, Reno's reason for approving the final gas attack varied from her initial claim that the FBI hostage rescue team had told her that Koresh was sexually abusing children and beating babies. The FBI hostage rescue team.
That's fucking rad. He's beating babies. We got to do this.
The HRT later denied of child abuse during the standoff. To her claim that Linda Thompson's unorganized militia of the United States was on the way to Waco, either to help Koresh or to attack him. The assault took place on April 19th, 1993, because of the Branch Davidians, the Branch Davidians were heavily armed. The FBI hostage rescue team's arms included 50 caliber rifles and armored combat engineering vehicles. Jesus Christ, why are these words so big? The CEV
basically they had 50 cal sniper rifles and tanks.
Right. The CEVs used explosives to punch holes in the walls of buildings of the compound so they could pump in tear gas, and they tried to force the Branch Davidians.
And as somebody who's been sprayed with CS gas before, I will tell you right now that shit is no joke. CS gas sucks. And one of the big things about them spraying it inside the compound was that some of the areas inside the compound weren't ventilated properly. And basically what CS gas does is it pretty much just like takes all your oxygen away to where you want to get away from it. so you can get into air, and then it starts clearing up once you get out of the air. Once you get out in the air, but if
Right.
you're in a room that's not ventilated properly, people could die from that.
Damn.
Well, damn. And try to force the Branch Davidians out without harming them. The stated plan called for increasing amounts of gas to be pumped in over 2 days to increase pressure.
2
Officially,
days? I didn't know it was 2 days. God dang.
right?
Fuck.
Officially, no armed assault was to be made. Loudspeakers were to be used to tell the Branch Davidians that there would be no armed assault and to ask them not to fire on the vehicles. According to the FBI, the HRT agents had been permitted to return any incoming fire, but no shots were fired by federal agents on April 19th. When several Branch Davidians opened fire, the FBI hostage rescue team's response was only to increase the amount of gas being used. The FBI HRT delivered 40 millimeter CS grenade fire from M79 grenade launchers. Very early in the morning, the FBI hostage rescue team fired 2 military M6F1 rounds at the Branch Davidian construction site. Around mid-morning, the FBI hostage rescue team began to run low on 40 millimeter Ferret CS rounds and asked Texas Ranger Captain David Burns for tear gas rounds. The tear gas rounds procured from the company F in Waco turned out to be unusable pyrotechnic and were returned to the company F office afterwards. 40 millimeter munitions recovered by the Texas Rangers that included dozens of plastic Ferret model SGA 400 liquid CS rounds, 2 metal M651E1 military pyrotechnic tear gas rounds, 2 metal Nico pyrotechnic sound and flash grenades, and parachute illumination flares. After more than 6 hours, no Branch Davidians had left the building, sheltering inside in an underground concrete block room, aka the bunker, within the building, or using gas masks. At around noon, 3 fires broke out almost simultaneously in different parts of the building and spread quickly. Footage of the blaze was broadcasted live by television crews. The government maintains the fires were deliberately started by the Branch Davidians. Some Branch Davidian survivors maintain that the fires were accidentally or deliberately started by the assault. Only 9 people left the building.
What's possible happened, I don't know if they ever actually figured out if it was the Branch Davidians that started the fire, but some of the consensus is that when you get so much of that tear gas and stuff in there, and when they say pyrotechnic grenades, the reason why they're saying pyrotechnic is when they go off, there's sparks that come out of the grenades that causes the smoke and stuff. So it's not like they're throwing flares in there. You know what I mean? But it's possible once you get that much gas in that area, as much as they've had in there, when you start firing off the 40 millimeter grenades and the sparks start going off, it could catch flames from that. And that's possible what happened. And this is all just coming from my knowledge of when I used to work in corrections, because we had to deal with the 40 millimeter grenades and stuff. And like the 40 millimeter grenade, I mean, these things are scary. Like the launchers and stuff are pretty much like, it looks like a giant revolver and you're shooting like miniature tennis ball canisters out of this thing. And that's what holds the gas. So, I mean, they're a pretty good size thing. And along with, and like the flash grenade. Now, it's possible the flash grenades could have done it too, because the flash grenades are more of like, they're not shooting out gas as much as they're trying to disorient people. So when you throw it into a room, there's a loud bang and a pop, and it shoots off like a really bright light. And so that could have been something too that happened.
Well, damn.
Interesting.
Okay. Well, only 9 people left the building during the fire. The remaining Branch Davidians, including the children, were either buried alive by rubble, suffocated, or shot. Many were killed by smoke or carbon monoxide inhalation and other causes as fire engulfed the building. According to the FBI, Steve Schneider, Koresh's top aide, shot and killed Koresh and then himself.
Yeah.
And all 70.
When they found Koresh's body, he had a bullet hole in his head.
Yeah, and all 76 people died. A large concentration of bodies, weapons, and ammunition was found in the bunker storage room. The Texas Rangers arson investigator report assumes that many of the occupants were either denied escape from within or refused to leave until escape was not an option. It also mentioned breaching operations on the west end of the building could have blocked a possible escape route through the tunnel system. An independent investigation by two experts from the University of Maryland's Department of Fire Protection Engineering at the compound residents had sufficient time to escape the fire if they had so desired. Autopsies of the dead revealed that some women and children had found beneath a fallen concrete wall of a storage room died of other children locked in what appeared to be spasmic death poses are consistent with cyanide poisoning, one of the results produced by burning CS gas. The U.S. Department of Justice report indicate that only one body had traces of benzene, one of the components of solvent dispersed CS gas, but that gas insertions had finished nearly 1 hour before the fire started, and that it for solvents to dissipate from the bodies of the Branch Davidians that had inhaled the tear gas. Autopsy
And
records.
that's where when they were talking about the solvents had dissipated, in the areas that were ventilated well. For the ones that were underneath, that were down inside these little bunker areas that was underneath that deal, it wasn't ventilated so well, so it took longer for the gas to dissipate.
Right. The autopsy records also indicate that at least 20 Branch Davidians were shot, including Koresh, as well as 5 children under the age of 14. 3-year-old Dalen Gent was stabbed in the chest.
Oh my God.
Right.
Yeah.
The medical examiner who performed the autopsies believed these deaths were mercy killings by the Branch Davidians trapped in the fire with no escape. The expert retained by the U.S. Office of Special Counsel concluded that many gunshot wounds support self-destruction either by overt suicide, consensual execution, consensual execution, which is suicide by proxy, or less likely forced execution. Then we got a list of chronological events for that day, but I mean, I don't really think we need to read all that.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically, and another part that they were talking about when they said that some of the people did have plenty of time to escape, but then there was other ones, some of the people that were inside the bunkers because they put the women and children below, and some of them had actually gotten trapped in there from when the fire started and stuff started collapsing. And so they weren't necessarily killed by the falling rubble. They were actually burned alive from the fires.
That fucking sucks.
Right.
And then we've got just 10 things you may not know about Waco. And just skimming over it, we found out some of these things, but some we do not. Nobody knows who shot first. A partial transcript of the 911 call was released. It shows David Koresh calling 911 to report the shooting. And it basically goes him saying that this is David Koresh at Mount Carmel. We're being shot all up out here.
Shut up out here.
I'm at Mount
Shut
Carmel.
up all about here. Paperboy gotta go.
David Koresh wasn't his real name. We all knew that. We just figured that out.
This podcast may speak on subjects that such podcast may speak.
That fucking sucks.
Said, huh? The fourth one said, did you pour it yet? The fifth one said, I haven't. The sixth one said, David said, pour it, right? The fifth one said, did he? Do you want it poured? The sixth one said, come on, let's pour it.
What if David didn't say that though? They misunderstood.
They were just like,
it started fires for no reason.
right? And the fifth one was
Did
all
he
like,
say it? I don't know. Let's do it anyways. Fuck